Cashflow Diary podcast, episode 491.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary podcast. I'm your host, Jay Massey, and I'm glad that you are here today because when it comes down to it, you and I, we're out there building our businesses, as you know, and oftentimes as you go, you tend to run into, we'll call them obstacles. For some of you, that obstacle could be, you don't know what to do. For others of you, it could be, you know what, I don't have time. And for many of you, what I've heard before time and time again, and you can raise your hand. I won't tell anybody. Have you ever said, you know what, if I just had the money, if I just had the credit, I would totally go out there and crush this whole real estate thing? Well, what's interesting is that you guys know we've built our business without using money or credit, meaning you had to go ahead and make something happen without those things. But what I like about today's guest is that they know how to do it both ways because they were in real estate before that 2008 debacle and after, and now they're bigger, better, stronger than ever. I have with me today none other than Chris Prefontaine. You may know him from Smart Real Estate Coach. He also has a podcast, but most importantly, could you think you're going to be able to learn some good nuggets today from someone who's been in the game for 27 years? I think so. But most importantly, what if you could buy that building that you are passing right now? Yes, the building you are passing right now with just using terms and not needing a bank. I think we're going to learn a lot today. I think we're going to enjoy what we gain and glean from what is arguably a staying power in the real estate world. So help me welcome Chris Prefontaine. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing terrific, Jay.
I'm glad that you are here. Now, this being the first time that you are here, I have to ask you the same question that I tend to ask everybody else. Are you ready?
Certainly.
All right. So I tend to look at today's entrepreneurs a lot like yesterday's superheroes, you know, like Batman, Robin, Superman, Wonder Woman, etc. And I think superheroes and entrepreneurs have a ton of things in common. For example, occasionally as an entrepreneur, I can envision myself running around town using our products and services and saving our customers. And yes, maybe I am wearing a cape. Now, also like a superhero, an entrepreneur has a beginning. For example, if you think about Spider-Man, there was a time where he was just a kid going to school, doing his thing, taking some photos. And then one day he gets bit by a spider, discovers he's got superhuman abilities, and, well, has to choose. Do I use them for good or for evil? So, my question to you is as follows. Before, you know, your podcast, before your company, before, you know, being able to do like millions upon millions and tens of millions of dollars of real estate transactions, before doing all the things that honestly we know you for today, what we want to know is, who is Chris Prefontaine?
Now, are you asking me a reference to precisely the characters?
As some people have done that, so that is that if that helps, yes. But at the same time, we want to know about the Chris that we've not heard about before.
Sure. So when you said 27 years, I started building single-family homes in the 90s, and then ended up buying a franchise, Realty Executives franchise. Put the broker-owner realtor hat on for a while. After being a builder, that was a bit odd, but it was something I could do without much bank financing and without much hassle other than hustle. And then after that, we actually sold the real estate brokerage business to a Coldwell Banker in 2000. Most people said, you can't sell it. You're a broker. There's nothing to sell. But we built it up to 100 homes a year, steady, and grabbed some good market share and then sold it. From 2000 on, we started coaching. We started doing rehab projects, condominium conversions, all the things that were hot then. But that then drove us into the 2008 debacle, where we got rather annihilated would be an understatement, because we were on loans personally. We were, personally signed on debt, personally pledging assets, all the things that just I look back and say, what the heck were we thinking about? But it caused us to re-engineer and be what we are today, which is a family company, buying and selling 5 or 10 homes a month around the country with us and our students, and not touching a bank, not putting our own cash up, not signing personally. So dramatically different.
Now, there are many people who just heard your story and they were excited about it. And then that last bit about, all the, we'll call it shakeup you went through, totally scared them. And they're like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm afraid of. So that's why I haven't done anything. So
sure.
And I know in the back of their head, they're going, well, how do I get in if and make this happen for myself? So we're definitely going to talk about that. But what I want to know is, did you just wake up and go, you know what? Real estate is my thing. Was there ever anything before real estate that had your attention?
Good question. I actually, in college and after college, grew up in a family business which had zero to do with real estate. It was actually a welding supply business. But in doing that, my father actually built his own commercial buildings and then had the company release them off of him. So that was kind of my exposure, if you will, to real estate. We had 5 or 6 big commercial buildings, and then he did some land flips, and that was my exposure to it. And then I kind of just got the itch from then on. I mean, from 1990 or 91-ish on, I've dabbled in some shape, form, or fashion in real estate.
Now, when you say welding supply, like what? I'm just I don't even know what's in a welding supply company. I'm just like, well, how big could that building have been, and why would you need so many? But okay.
Yeah, so we were the largest in New England. We had 5 branches in welding supplies and industrial gases. So for the welder, for the hospitals, for the, it is a big business, and we had one of the better and definitely the biggest in New England.
Interesting. Okay. So was it, what was that conversation like? I'm thinking, your dad's doing welding supply and you go, hey, I want to try this real estate thing.
Yeah, funny. So during, there was some people looking at us to purchase us. When I say us, I didn't own it. It was his business. I was young, but they were looking to purchase us around 90, 91. And around that same time, I had bumped into a gentleman that we started doing some what I call spot building, single family homes in single lots sitting in existing well-developed subdivisions already. So just kind of infill, if you will. We started poking away at that. The money was great. And so as I did that more and more, Dad came to me and said, look, do you want to stay here? Is it okay if I sell? So I said, no, do what you need to do for you. He was around 52 at the time, about where I am right now. So he sold, and I went off and started building full time with that partner. That's how that transition took place.
That's awesome. I like it. I like it that he was supportive and probably like, yeah, no, do your own thing. I like that a lot. Now, there's something in your story as well that I think is also important for all of us to hear and to understand. I've often said, once you get started, stay started, because sometimes starting is the most challenging thing. But also being aware of the fact that where you start may not necessarily be where you stay. You've mentioned that you started, broker owner, but today that doesn't sound like you're anywhere near close. So explain to us the rationale, the journey, and how you were able to make some of those transitions.
Yeah, good question there too, Jay. The fact is that real estate changes a lot, as you know, and we tried to be on the cusp. Not always correct, obviously. If we had a crystal ball, that'd be neat. But try to stay on the cusp of what's going on, not just in the market, but also us personally, right? So when I transitioned from building to owning a brokerage, it was strictly because the market was taking a toll on us in that we had some big subdivisions, and it just was wearing on us. And I looked around and said, what else could we do? Well, we've got some great contacts in the brokerage business, realtors that have worked with us for the last 5 or 6 years. So I had been approached by a local outfit here looking to expand into New England, and bought the franchise that way. So it was a little bit of organic happening and a little bit of by choice. And then we specifically said, let's build this to sell it. I mean, it wasn't a long-term thing from the beginning on the brokerage side. And once we sold it, I then had a little bit of time for the first time in life, a little bit of money for the first time in life to step back and say, what do I want to do? And that was dabble in some rehabs and dabble in some condominium conversions. And it was fun. It's still fun to this day, but it's just not our main focus.
Interesting. So let me ask you this. I know this is true for myself, and I often wonder this about everyone who's made a career around real estate. I know for me, I personally don't really like, quote unquote, real estate in and of itself. I love the benefits that real estate brings to the table. But, a wall's a wall, a house is a house. I'm not overly emotional or romantic about the physical real estate in any way, shape, or form. I like providing clean, safe, affordable housing, but everything else about it it's more focused on the benefits. Where would you stand on something like that?
I actually, slightly different. I actually like the variety. I get bored too easy. So I like the variety in creating a new deal. So we do deals here with, it's my son, my son-in-law, my daughter, and a great support team. So it's fun to be with the family, number one. Number two, the deals are never the same. You know that. They're just never the same. And so now we're doing deals around the country with students, and every single week there's a new deal. There's a new twist, there's a new challenge, and that keeps me fresh. And as soon as that's not fresh, I probably won't be doing it.
Yes, and that was my challenge. That's why we've skipped through so many different types of real estate. So let's put, for the sake of this next question, we're going to put money aside. It doesn't matter the economic value. What has been or what is your favorite type of real estate transaction or deal or something that you've done or would like to only do?
Money aside, I like working with free and clear properties that we can structure owner financing on. I love those deals.
Yeah, they do provide a lot of options.
Yeah,
for sure. So when it comes down to it, when you're out there, because I get this question, 2008 comes, you do your thing, the market happens to you, so to speak, but yet you don't quit. Why?
You could say a few different things. I could say a few different things. One is when you say don't quit, where the heck would I go? This is what I know, it's what I love. So it's just a matter of what lessons did I learn when I got banged on the head, right? It didn't make the business bad. It made my decisions bad. So let's fix them. That's why I used the word earlier. Let's re-engineer how we're going to do the deal. Doesn't mean the business is bad in any shape, form, or fashion. It just means that we made some bad decisions and we learn from them and move on. And I always say on my show, if a mentor says to anyone, well, I never went through headaches in any business, not just real estate, they're full of baloney. I mean, anyone successful has been through headaches, and it's good.
Yeah, but that doesn't feel good during the process. But yes, totally understood. So for those that weren't looking at real estate, because by the way, 2008 is when I got my very first transaction. So that was when I got in. But it wasn't because I was sitting on the outside timing it going, ooh, this is the right time to get in. No. It wasn't anything that sophisticated. It was mostly we needed to find something to do. And it was like, hey, let's try this. And that's really much how that happened. But looking back, what would you say if I had to pin you down and you go, all right, these are the top 3 lessons that I learned and I would like everybody to know going into this whole real estate thing?
I think super, super high on my list, and kudos to you to have a podcast like you do and a show like you do to help people, because I think number one on the list is to find someone that has a few of these criteria. Number one is in the niche you want, but that's not enough. In the niche you want. Number two, doing that still. So they didn't just do it 20 years ago. It's not a pre-life. They're doing it now because real estate changes too quickly. And third, you can relate to them. I'm not so naive to think everybody can relate to me. So you got to find those 3 things and a mentor. And then, so that's kind of one point. The second point would be, in my opinion, no banks. It's just how I choose to operate after going through what I did in '08. I want to put my head on the pillow at night knowing I don't have a bank. I don't have a personal signature. I didn't pledge any personal assets. I don't have any of that stress at night. And I think just for me, that's huge. There are plenty of people that don't mind borrowing and signing on the line for that. It just, I think if you knew especially, why would you put yourself into that position?
Yes, I'm definitely not going to argue that no banks situation. When we got started, Chris, and I'm sure you don't know this, but we had a credit score of 398. My wife and I were squatting at bank-owned property. She could not eat or drink, and I was unable to walk and talk. Banks wouldn't touch us, even if we wanted to. And to this date, I actually still have never used a bank for any of my transactions. So I actually don't know how. Which is kind of fine to me, but people hear that from me and they go, "Oh, but Jay, I can use the banks, but why shouldn't I?" So because you've been on both sides, I think it would be very valuable for everyone to hear, like, I did use banks, but here's why I don't.
Okay, huge. Because I had credit when I signed on the dotted line all through the early 2000s. My credit was perfect. That's why it was very convenient to sign. It was very convenient to go online. It was very convenient to walk in a bank because they wanted to give you money because you have credit. Here's the challenge with that. They get amnesia real fast with who you are and what your relationship is with them when their job's on the line and a loan has to be called, or the market dove, or the bank got bought out, or a position got changed, a new president. All of those things spell potential problem for you. And now your credit goes from being pristine, in my case, to in the toilet. I think I was low fives when I last checked, when I stopped looking, but it was like low fives or high fours when I hit the skids. And that's a painful thing. Now, we rebuilt it. I'm over 8 now, but that wasn't a path that I would tell anyone to go through. So don't pledge it if you have it. Protect it with everything you got.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing how the world works. When we were, there was a time where I still laugh because I think it's funny. I couldn't rent a car, like when traveling, because of the credit check, although I had enough cash to buy the car. Yeah. But I couldn't rent it. And it was the strangest thing on the planet. But in today's economy, I know for me, one of the things that I love, especially by not using banks, is that benefit that would have gone to the bank gets to go to a human who's likely to say thank you. Have that been your experience?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I have nothing to even add to that. Well said.
Well, it's just one of those things that I think that makes a difference. So when it comes down to working your business today, you mentioned that you worked with, well, your family.
Mm-hmm.
What is that like?
It's great. There's a level of trust and responsibility beyond other. I would say just having a bunch of employees. Well, we have employees, but it's mainly family. And then the other piece of that, Jay, is that we are all in it for the same reason, meaning we all are in it for the next deal that happens. It's not like someone's drawing on the company or getting a large payroll. Everyone's in it for the big picture. So it's almost like we're all partners all the time. And that is on the buying and selling end as well as the coaching and mentoring end. So it's pretty cool. Got
it. So, and speaking of coaching and mentoring, talk to us about the journey, because it doesn't, I'm assuming you didn't start out saying, one day that's what I'm going to do. What was your transition like? Hello there, entrepreneur. This is Jay Massey. I know that if you've ever gone over to the site, cashflowdiary.com, you may have asked yourself, where on earth do you get a domain name from? Especially as you are beginning to build your bigger, better, badder business, you need a web presence. You need the email address. You need a way for people to contact you electronically so that you can stop doing the @gmail.com game. Well, the good folks over at GoDaddy have definitely supplied us with every domain that we have ever used. So what I want you to do is I want you to go over to trygodaddy.com/Cashflow Diary. Again, that's trygodaddy.com/Cashflow Diary, because it's a quick way for you to get set up to capture your domain name the exact way that you want it. They got easy search functions, and most importantly for you is that you'll be up and running today. As I said, Once you get started, stay started. Don't let small little obstacles of how to get your own domain name going stop you. So again, go to trygodaddy.com/cashflow diary, and let's get back to the rest of the story.
You know, when I said the 2000 stage, when I sold the company, I had been asked by Richard Robbins, who's based out of Canada, but I know he's all over the U.S. now, and he trains mostly realtors. So that was my foray into coaching. He asked me to help him, and I did that for about 2 years. Now, I was chained to a desk and phone work and that type of thing. It was a great experience. And then when we started re-engineering the business, right around 2013, there was actually a local Navy guy. We in Newport, Rhode Island, there's a war college here, and there's a local Navy guy that said, look, I'm tired of going on tour and heard about you and wanted to know if you'd teach me how to do some real estate. And so that was a very organic way of getting into coaching. And then that just spread word of mouth. And now we've got what we call associates, essentially students or partners, if you will, around the country who we coach, teach, train, but we also do the deals with them and revenue share. So just like we do as a family, we revenue share with them and teach them while we're doing the deal with them, while we're speaking to the sellers for them and with them. It's right together, just like they were in our office.
That's an interesting model. Totally understand. Now, when it comes down to your types of transactions today, is it primarily like single family houses? What are you guys into?
Okay, so we do primarily singles, yes, because we buy them lease purchase, owner financing, and subject to with no banks. Do we run into other deals? Sure. We run into the occasional rehab. We run into the occasional wholesale. We run into the occasional multifamily. We just sold off 2 of our multifamilies, a 4 and a 6 unit. So they'll come your way, as any real estate professional knows, that you'll run into these things. And what's really cool is if you understand how to handle them. I call it in my book the master transaction engineer, meaning whatever deal comes your way, do you know which way to pivot, which way to turn, which way to exit? And that's what we try to help people with.
Master transaction engineer. I like it because that's exactly what it feels like continuously. Now, in the time that you've been in real estate, you've seen various different, you've seen different presidents, you've seen different financial markets. When you look at real estate today, do you go, oh, it's great, this is such the time, or do you have any concerns?
This is an interesting one because I think it is such the time for 2 reasons, though. One is personally for me, my wife said recently we had a big event, our annual event, and she said, kiddingly, it took you 50 years to figure this out, because I just feel like we're hitting stride. We've banged our head enough times. We've learned enough lessons where we can now give that to others and do that with them. So from a time standpoint, yes, the market's great, but it's also great timing for us and our family to really be spreading the web and helping a whole bunch of people. I don't know. I wish you and I knew when the market's going to do what it's going to do. But I think when you're buying on terms the way we are and you protect yourself the way we are, I really don't care what the market does next. In fact, if it goes down a little bit, great. If it stays steady, fantastic. And I don't think it's going to keep booming. So I think we're good either way, in my opinion.
Well, it's funny that you say that. I was actually going to say, does it even matter? Because at the end of the day, people are still going to need a place to stay, right?
Yeah, and when you're buying on terms, the beauty is, can you always restructure terms? Of course you can. You're not on it personally. There's no stress. It's a matter of, again, being that master transaction engineer and kind of moving the piece of the puzzle around for a win-win.
Well, and that's even more so when you're dealing with an actual human that's not known as a bank.
Absolutely.
Totally understood. So let's play a quick little game. Let's pretend that, right now you get the privilege of knowing everything you know, but you don't have any of the other resources, no money, no network, nothing. But you're starting over. Are you still in Rhode Island, or do you go somewhere else?
I would be right here. This is a good question. This is like when people say, would you move for the market? I personally don't. I know some people operate with big apartment buildings and they'll go to different markets, but we go where we live, right, for convenience. It's on a smaller note. It's like someone saying, when's the best time to make calls? Well, you probably reach more people at night, but I don't want to work at night, so I do when I want to do them. So right. That's where I want to be, right here where I am.
Okay, got it. Now, for those who don't know, like myself, I've never been to Rhode Island, but everyone that I've met from there keeps talking about it. What please enlighten us. Why do we need to come and visit at least?
Well, we live in Newport, so Newport's right along the water. It's a little city by the sea, they call it, and you know this. I mean, Rhode Island in general is the tiniest dot on the map, right? It's the smallest state, but Newport in particular is it's an island within the island, and it's international in its draw because people come for the sailing, the boating, the festivals. So the population goes from 30,000 in the winter to 250,000 in the summer because of the tourism.
Wow. That's a big swing.
Yeah.
I mean, that does that mean you leave then? You're like, dude, I don't want to be here.
Well, by the end of it, you feel like it. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, that's interesting. Got it. Okay. So for the entrepreneurs that are listening, there's at least one right now who's been considering and thinking about getting into the whole real estate game. They haven't pulled the trigger yet. But they feel like that they should. They feel like it's a move that they should make. In your opinion, is real estate or something other than a W-2 job a necessary thing for one's financial future, or is it optional?
Oh, I don't think it's optional. I mean, I've got a strong opinion of this, Jay, and I know you do. I'm sure. Look, I can't imagine. I'll give you a number.
Yeah.
We just came off our event, so I got some numbers in my head, and we had people from all over the country there, and the average per deal, we create 3 paydays every deal we do, 3. So the average per deal, all 3 paydays, runs from a very low of 45 or 50,000 to a high of about 110. Okay, so what job could you do? Unless, my disclosure here is, unless you're a doctor, you're an attorney, you're some specialty that you love. Okay, then if you love it, great. But other than that, what job could you do that could possibly pay you like that, allow you to take time off when, where, and how you want, and literally do this anywhere in the country you want? I don't know of one. I'm perplexed. If someone could give me a better answer than yeah, this job's way better, and here's why. I don't know of it. I couldn't imagine it.
It's almost like it. Yeah, I do the math occasionally, and I find myself on a consistent basis pinching myself, so to speak, like, wow, this is awesome. I like this. Why didn't I learn this in high school? That type of question always goes through my head. But other than just the I guess, if you will, is there any other reason that makes you go, you know what, this works out very well for someone's financial future, or just future or the quality of life in any way?
I think quality, the latter part of what you said, is more important. Maybe it's because of my age, but the fact is that it's not about the money. It's about the money that allow you to do the things that money can't buy. So I know that's a play on words, but I mean the money to allow you to do things that money can't buy, meaning what? Create experiences. We love travel, and those are experiences you can't take away. So things like that, that's a lifestyle. That's what I like to say is you get to design your lifestyle. Like literally, you could go to any mentor in the industry and say, look, here are my goals. Here's kind of my personality. Here's what I like. Here's where I am geographically, and then get the right guidance to match that. I mean, where else can you design something like that? You can go build someone else's dream or someone else's lifestyle that they design if you're going to go get the job.
I think if you and I keep talking, we're going to end up going to do some more real estate deals today. Because we just, no doubt, right? But that actually gets to my point. One of the things that I want to bring up, especially for someone who's new, is oftentimes, and at least I've seen this, that they can treat, or it feels like they treat the process of maybe something as simple as writing an offer like an event. I mean, your birthday, that's an event, a holiday, that's an event. But writing an offer, that's just kind of what you do. It's no big quote unquote deal. I'm curious to understand your perspective on some of the steps where people get hung up, like writing offers. Why do you think that's so, and how could they possibly get past that faster?
I see a mix on that front. I see people that do what you say, and they're more what I call the analytical brains, the engineer types. We have a few students like that, and they're some of the most successful, frankly, but it's the kind of that paralysis by analysis. I would say no matter what niche you go into, and no matter what mentor you pick, be able to do this. Be able to do 2 things. One, put the blinders on, literally, like don't look left, right, or backwards and say, I'll do what you tell me to do, and I'll do it for how long? I'll do it for 3 years. That's what I tell people to do. I know people here 6 months. You can do a deal in 30 days. Set your expectations right so you don't beat yourself up, and then find a mentor and put the blinders on. And then when it comes to that offer or it comes to that next step, just do what they say and trust it blindly. It's not going to be easy. I get that. I've had mentors my whole life, but do that and you'll have great success.
You know, what's funny about that is that when you say that, most of the stuff that I'm going to assume, has there been anything in the time that you've worked with your students where what you're suggesting for them to do is something that they're already familiar with?
The ones that come in cold, meaning they've never been in real estate, I can pretty much say across the board that it's all new. But I have two people in particular I'm thinking of as you asked that were in commercial real estate, one for 28 years and having huge success with us. So, there's ties, there's vocabulary, there's vernacular that gets used that maybe is easier to digest, but it is all new. It's a new area. Use me. When I came from the building business and in the rehab business, I didn't do terms. I had to
Right.
grab a couple mentors. I had to study it, and I had to say, well, what's the paperwork used? Like what that, it's all new at first, but once you do 1, 2, 3, you got it.
So do you have your favorite, how like a carpenter can have their favorite hammer? Do you have a favorite term tool that you're using? Like your go-to?
Meaning what type of deal?
Well, yeah, I mean, I know for me, I slant towards, purchase money mortgages or contracts for deed almost all the time, but I'm just curious if you have something other than that. Like what's your favorite?
I'm going to go back, not to be redundant, but I'm going to go back to owner financing only because it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So I'll define it for us. It means that we are buying someone's home that's free and clear. So they're in a good position. They're not in a bad position. And we are structuring a great price as long as the term's right. But here's the kicker. We're structuring it always. There's been no exceptions to this in 150 deals. And that is always principal only payments, no exception. So there's no interest paid, and you get massive principal pay down, which is also a great hedge against any market.
Yep, got it. Totally understood. Now, I'm curious. Do you carry a financial calculator with you?
I do not. If I'm traveling, it might be one in my briefcase, but I do not. I mean, on the phone, there's enough apps now, so I'll usually use that mortgage calculator on there.
Yeah, I was just wondering, when you said that, I was like, I bet you, because I know I'm never far from it, because you never know when you're going to need it. But when you said that, I was like, I bet you he has one. So that's pretty awesome.
Well, yeah, because the mortgage calculator is cool when you're looking at owner financing deals, because you got to figure out what the conventional buyer would pay if they went and got financing. That's kind of what I look at, and then I try to structure it to be advantageous that way.
Totally understood. Now, for those that have listened this far and have enjoyed our conversation as much as you and I have, and want to possibly find out more, what's going to be the best way for them to find out more about what you guys got going on?
I'll get you something you can put in the show notes for my free webinar. If they don't mind listening to my New England accent for another 60 minutes, they can jump on some great content with these terms deals. And also I give them a bunch of bonuses just for hanging out and listening. And here's why I do it for free. People say, well, why do you do that? Because if it's not a niche for you, you get done the webinar, you collect a couple bonuses, and you can move on and say, okay, that wasn't for me. Or if I wasn't for you, if you go, man, I couldn't work with that person. Okay, so at least you'll know at the end of the webinar whether you want to go forward or not.
And I meant to say this earlier. You're actually one of the few individuals who I've ever met who said that one of the evaluating criteria should actually be, do I relate to that person? And I appreciate you saying that, because no, I don't relate to everybody. And you never know how important that could be. Now, as we wind down, I've got a final question for you, because I'm kind of curious to hear your answer. There's, again, let's pretend that someone has been listening this time and they're going, you know what? Chris, all right, I can do it. He said I could do it. Jay's doing it. People are making cash flow happen. And they're at what I like to call that precipice of decision. I mean, they're figuratively standing in front of the superhero outfit store ready to pick out their cape. And like I know, that when we reach those moments, we're often accompanied with a companion. And that companion comes in the form of a voice, and it reminds us, of, well, how it didn't go well last time. And you're going to do what? I mean, you're going to buy how much real estate? No, there's no one who's going to give you, principal only financing. What are you talking about? And for some people, they're actually married to that voice. So my question to you is as follows. Let's pretend that this time it's going to be different and they're going to follow through on what you say. And they're going to do so in the next 24 to 48 hours. What would you suggest that they do?
I'm going to be boring and tell you to go back to pull the trigger on a mentor, meaning choose a mentor ASAP. Success leaves clues, as you know, Jane. It's just crazy, in my opinion, to try to go at it alone. So choose a mentor based on the criteria I gave you earlier, and do that like by the month end. When you listen to this show, by month end or by the week's end, choose it and move, and don't look back.
I like it. Like it 100%. I definitely, again, appreciate you taking the time to not only be here with us, but to have your experiences, share your experiences, and help others go and grow through their experiences as well. And want to say thanks for taking the time to share your knowledge, your wisdom, and your insight here with us today at the Cashflow Diary.
Well, you're welcome. You were great to speak with and very easy to speak with. So great job, and thanks for having me on.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean? Let's get over to the show notes because we got free stuff there for you. Free information, bonuses, but most importantly, some of you know it's time to move forward. So make it happen because at the end of the day, you earn $0 on the property you don't own. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been fun talking to you today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.